District Judge Robinson, and I sit full-time in the County and Family Courts at Teesside Combined Court Centre in Middlesbrough, which is on the North Eastern Circuit. In terms of when I first became interested in the law, it was probably as a young teenager, and I began to have a real interest in rights and wrongs, however cliche that might sound. And I first became involved in a debating competition. I really enjoyed it. I then attended some work experience in this very court that I'm now sitting when I was aged 15. And I saw how diverse the law was, and it really sparked my interest and really attracted me to it. And here I am 20 years later, sitting on the opposite side of the desk. So it's quite a circular route to get here, but one that I'm pleased that I'm here now. Before I became a district judge, I worked as a solicitor in the civil courts, dealing with individuals who'd suffered serious and fatal injuries. I also had a particular interest and specialism with individuals who'd been injured as a result of their military service. I also then, short time before becoming a judge, became a legally qualified chair of the Medical Practitioners Tribunal Service. And I worked on a panel of 3 hearing cases where allegations had been made against doctors in relation to performance or conduct issues, and then determining sanctions in those cases. And also part-time, I was a contributing editor for a legal publication service. How a judge reaches a decision is often something that is asked, and at all levels of the judiciary, it will be the same process. Firstly, it involves listening. I need to hear what those who appear before me are saying, as they may not be legally qualified, and they might not realise that a piece of evidence which they provide is really significant to the case. I also then must consider all the documentary evidence that is before me, which involves analysing it and not just taking it at its face value. I might need to ask questions because it may be that the subject matter before me is quite technical, and believe it or not, judges do not know everything, and so I might need some guidance on the technical matters that are before me, so that I can then understand all the facts and the evidence. And once I've done that, I need to weigh it all in the balance and determine which evidence I find is stronger. And what's really important is then to give reasons for that. So, for example, I might consider one piece of evidence was supported and backed up by multiple sources, and that might be a reason for preferring it to evidence that is otherwise based on assumptions from someone. And so giving those reasons will help people understand why I've come to a decision. I must say it's not always easy to make decisions, for example, in cases concerning where children should be living or whether they should not be seeing one of their parents, but it's by stepping back and undertaking that analysis of the evidence, it provides a robustness to the decision-making process. But I would say that I, along with other judges, do understand the impact of our decisions that have on people's individual lives. Being a judge involves a lot more than sitting in court. There's often a lot of what's called box work. So this is literally paperwork that comes in a box, and it's for judges to sort through. It might be considering written applications made by parties. It might be allocating new cases to determine how those cases should progress and hopefully progress quickly and efficiently. Or it might be assisting court staff with queries that have arisen with parties ringing up the court and needing some guidance and answers. There are also some meetings that take place with fellow judges, staff and other partners, and there may be some training or events to attend. What I would say, though, and particularly for anyone interested in a judicial career, there is a marked difference from private practice. And unlike private practice, I'm very much in control of my own diary and what I do on a day-to-day basis. Although we do have a listing team that obviously sets down the cases that I have to hear, I control much of what goes on, and certainly all the extracurricular stuff that goes on. The best advice that I could give to anyone who is interested in becoming a judge is to talk to judges. You don't have to know judges personally, and many judges would be willing to speak with you following any hearings that you've been before them for and that you want to ask any questions. There's also a judicial shadowing scheme, which I took advantage of, and it really does provide an insight into the work of a judge. I would also say to advise anyone becoming a judge to disregard any preconceived ideas. Anyone you speak to will offer you slightly different advice and ideas, but the key is for you to understand the role and whether it's right for you. And getting experience of judicial work through tribunal work, and often that can be through regulatory bodies or professions, or even doing similar work on school governors where you're dealing with appeal panels. There's all sorts of ways to enhance those skills, and it's an excellent way to dip your toe in the water to see whether you like sitting in the chair and deciding arguments that appear before you. In terms of being a district judge, one piece of advice is please don't be put off by the wide jurisdiction. I had absolutely no background in family law work before I started, and it is now a significant part of my weekly work. However, it's something that I really do enjoy, and the training that the Judicial College provides in relation to it is exceptional, and I'm now very comfortable in the work that I do in that field. And touch wood, I haven't had too many appeals yet either. I don't think I've had to overcome any significant barriers which many others have had to overcome to become a judge. However, I also don't fit the mould of a stereotypical judge, a stereotype which I'm pleased it is changing and changing all the time. I was state school educated with a working class background, became a solicitor, but being a solicitor itself has some inbuilt difficulties. For example, many firms in private practice may be reluctant to support part-time sitting as a judge, and often without that part-time sitting experience, you're then not able to progress to salaried positions. And I took the view that part-time sitting was a short-term measure, and I was committed to a full career on the bench. And so for a couple of years, I utilised some annual leave from my employment from my firm to sit part-time. It's far from ideal, particularly when juggling family life, but I made it work for me and my family, and again, focused on it was going to be a short term. In addition, because of the reluctance that some firms may have to part-time sitting, it can also cause difficulties with nominating professional referees, which is part of the process. But looking outside the box, I had support of other professionals who I'd worked alongside who were more than happy to provide the Judicial Appointments Commission with those professional assessments that were needed as part of my application. What I would say as an aside to those who do manage firms is that there is a real advantage of having an employee on the payroll who sits as a part-time judge, because sitting as a judge provides an insight into how cases are viewed and managed from the other side of the courtroom, as well as having an individual who has those additional transferable skills such as reasoning, drafting, interpersonal skills, and all the competencies that are assessed and held by judges. Judicial independence is a fundamental facet of being a judge. Parties appearing before any judge need to know that they will be treated fairly, and also perceptions are important in relation to that. Even if a judge says that he or she is independent, the slightest perception of a personal or professional relationship with some organisation or other could cause one of the parties to believe that they've not had a fair trial. Judges therefore need to be really careful of their affiliations with groups and organisations. They must not be political. They must be careful as to when and whether they express views in their personal lives. There is a clear and simple code of conduct which affords guidance to all judges, no matter what level of judiciary in which they sit. And what I would say is it's a very collegiate feel amongst judges, and there's always advice from colleagues, whether on the district bench, whether circuit judges or above, who will offer that guidance and support if there's any questions that a judge may have in relation to their independence. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about judges is that they forget that we're human. And that might sound a strange thing to say, but we are real people with real lives. We have families. We're impacted by life events in the same way that everyone else is. Being a judge doesn't change that. And indeed, it's by living in the same society as the people that appear before us that make us good judges, because we're anchored in that society. In being human, it means judges also care very much about the work that they do. And that doesn't stop when they walk out of court, when a party leaves the courtroom. Judges will reflect upon the difficult decisions that they make when they go home. And they'll often take extra work at unsociable hours to make sure that the case of utmost importance, again, often involving the welfare of children, are dealt with expediently. So it really is remembering that behind the decisions that judges have to make and those difficult decisions, there is a real person there who actually does care about what they're doing. The rule of law is a concept that's all-encompassing. It's bigger than any single individual body. It applies to everyone. It can't be bought, sold or traded, nor can it be corrupted. And it's really that constant which ensures society keeps a firm foundation, even in times of uncertainty and unrest, particularly as we're seeing at the moment in 2021. And it is really the rules by which we must all play. And without those rules, there's no fairness, no equality, and no justice. And what's really pleasing is the rule of law is now part of the national curriculum, but even in primary schools. So even 5-year-olds are learning about why it is important to follow rules and the consequences, and actually progressing that through can only make for a better society as they become adults and carry those their understanding through into adult life. As a final comment, I wanted to say something about a judicial career. And if you've done your research and you feel it is something that you would like to embark upon, then simply just go for it with all the energy and all the enthusiasm which you had. It was when I attended a presentation by the Judicial Appointments Commission when I was a trainee solicitor that really harnessed my ambition to have an alternative legal career as a judge. I am one of the youngest full-time district judges, but age is not a factor at all, and appointments are made on merit only. So if you want to be a judge, set out a plan, work through it, take that plan seriously, take advice along the way from as many different sources as you can, and then you will reach that ambition that you want to get to. I've probably said far too much, but I will end with a brutal honesty. It isn't the easiest job to do, but being a district judge is a genuine privilege, and I don't say that glibly or to be cliched in any way. There isn't anything else that I would want to do, and if it's something that you're interested in, honestly, just go for it.